look really familiar. I've seen you before, haven't I?
Barry.
Barry.
Barry Allen.
Right.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Some people are just meant to be in your life.
What am I gonna do with you?
Well, I can think of a few things. Might need a stretch first, though.
You told me the dead don't want anything. Either I'm willing to do whatever is necessary, or I shouldn't be up there at all.
Which is exactly why I can't be.
You can't kill murder. You can't get revenge on evil. You can only fight them where they live.
Everybody, welcome back to the Fandom Zone. Things are a little different this week. I'm Charles Skaggs. Not with me this week is Karen Lindsay, who's apparently out with some dental issues. So Karen, keeping you in our thoughts. Hope you get better and get those choppers fixed. And hopefully she'll be back next time. But thankfully, joining us, filling in for Karen, is none other than my next stop everywhere, partner in time, Jesse Jackson, after a long, long hiatus from the show. So welcome back, Jesse.
Thank you, Charles. I'm glad that we finally got the Fandom Zone projector working. And so I'm able to appear. I don't look like this ghostly spirit, trying to talk like Mon-El would look like.
You're hanging out with General Zod and all those guys.
Exactly, yes. Of course, when I think of the Phantom Zone, I think of the Silver Age projector from comics, not from the movie. I tend to think of that.
The kind of big radar dish looking thing.
Yes, exactly.
Or like big flashlight.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah.
All right, so welcome back to the Phantom Zone. For the week ending January 28th, 2017. So this is episode 90, if you can believe it. We're already up to episode 90 of the Fandom Zone.
Wow.
10 episodes away from 100, so we're going to have to plan something a little big for 100.
Yes, everything.
But go ahead.
No, I hopefully I can be part of that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to. We definitely ought to round up everybody, as many people as we can for this, because I think we need to do something big for 100. So this week we're going to cover. Obviously, all the big CW shows are back this week from their winter hiati, or hiatuses, depending on your pluralization of the term. We have Supergirl this week. We have Gotham. We have Lucifer. We have The Flash. We have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Arrow, of course. Oh, and by the way, Legends of Tomorrow. I almost forgot Legends of Tomorrow. So, quite a lot to talk about this week. We're going to do things a little differently than Karen and I do, obviously. Karen normally does her little, kind of 3-topic breakdown of each episode as we go through. But for the sake of time, because I don't want to take too much of Jesse's time, we're going to abandon that format and just kind of just freewheeling discuss the stories as we go through. And hopefully we won't keep you as long as, sometimes we can end up 2 hours plus. So let's not try and do that.
Okay.
That's my goal. So here we go. Let's dive right in. First episode, we're going to talk about Supergirl, episode 9 of the second season, Supergirl Lives. And this was teleplayed by Eric Carrasco and Jess Cardos, directed by none other than Kevin Smith. Yes, that Kevin Smith. So, dying to know what you thought of this episode, Jesse.
I really was. He's trying to go through, I guess, every CW show and direct.
Right.
And I
he does. He started off with Flash, and then now he's on to Supergirl, and who knows? He may end up on Legends of Tomorrow or Arrow at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. And his daughter.
Yes, Harley Quinn Smith.
Yes,
plays you guest stars as Izzy, the kidnapped teenage girl victim of the episode.
Yeah.
So no nepotism there.
Yeah. I really liked the episode. I'm a big fan of Supergirl anyway. I love the tone of the episode of the series. It feels there certainly is not everything is sunny,
right?
But there is a positive vibe that I've always liked in the Superman family, and I think that this series does a great job of pushing that and having that tone. And so I was excited about Kevin Smith. I'm a big fan of it, and was really happy with the episode, the storylines, and I'm especially enjoying seeing the kind of the chemistry that we're seeing in our couple of our couples, both Kara and Mon-El,
right,
and then our favorite Alex and Maggie, and to a certain degree, Jimmy and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
You mean the Win?
Yeah, I mean, just that bro rants is kind of nice to see.
Okay, fair enough. So as someone who's been watching the show, are you enjoying the season 2 as much as you were season 1?
Yes, I miss Cat Grant,
right,
though I understand why she's gone, and I don't know if I like Snapper Carr as much.
I'm totally with you on that, by the way.
Yeah.
I think Snapper has so far been a dud character as far as I'm concerned.
And I think that actor is actually a pretty good actor. So if they gave him something to do, but lately all he's been is just grumpy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to grumble about Supergirl, and then privately I'm going to be like, "Oh, Kara is doing a really, really good job as a reporter." And that's the level of his characterization. And that's it.
Yeah, and it's like a less charming, grumpy Lou Grant. Shout out to the passing of Mary Tyler Moore.
I was just going to say, well played.
Yeah, but I do like when kind of working for the DEO. I like that Jimmy is trying to be is trying to find his own purpose. This back and forth, and I really love this. Chris's portrayal of Mon-El, though I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
The reason why he was called Mon-El is that
back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
In DC Comics, yes.
Yeah. Thought he was a brother of his.
Right.
When he originally visits. And
that he was actually from Krypton when he landed, and he landed on a Monday, which is why he was named Mon-El.
Yeah. But I don't...
Too bad he didn't land on a Friday, because then he could have been Fry-El.
Yeah. But they haven't talked about why he has the same last name as the Kara, even though he's from a whole nother family, right?
It makes no sense, because, he has Kara's last name of El for some reason, and he's from Daxam, which is a completely separate planet.
Right.
Even though, it's in the system. Maybe it's in the same solar system, but it's still a different planet.
Well, and
they haven't mentioned his actual comic book name of Lar-Gand, but they've been doing this mystery about him. And my pet theory has been, and Karen kind of agrees with me on this one, is that Mon-El's story has been, he was this guard and inside the royal palace on Daxam when everything went all kablooey and everybody had to escape or what have you. My theory is that he's actually royalty. He's Daxamite royalty, and maybe his real name is Lar-Gand. I keep hoping that will come out eventually.
I absolutely think I agree with that theory totally. I think that is, and I think they implied that a little bit more in this episode.
Yes.
So yeah, I totally agree with that. That said, that's a very nitpicking idea. I love that he is I liked drinking alcohol, so I'm going to work this.
Right.
And yeah, I'm already taking a day off. It's so I like that.
He's a very millennial character.
Yes, he is, and that's been really nice.
Yeah. So the premise of this episode, we have it essentially boils down to there's some missing kids, missing people. This girl named Izzy Williams, as we mentioned, Harley Quinn Smith, is one of these people. Kara gets brought in because this mother is looking for her daughter Izzy, and so Kara, of course, promises to look for her daughter. And eventually, it all leads to this clinic, this mysterious clinic where these individuals have been brought. There's like a scientist there who's up to shenanigans, and it turns out he's got this portal that is taking everybody to another realm or like another planet somewhere. And it, of course, has a red sun so that when Kara and Mon-El enter the portal, they lose their powers. And then they end up getting trapped behind the portal because they're too busy arguing to bother. And this is one of the things that frustrated me about this episode, is that they stand around bickering when they could just go back through the portal and not get trapped there.
Yeah, but I mean that's a hand wave as far as I'm concerned. The idea that they're there. It was good to see Roulette. Right? Yeah, because we also end up finding that all of this is tied into Roulette, played once again by Dylan Lachman, which is
Daisy's mom on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
and also
Dollhouse.
Dollhouse.
Right,
yes,
right.
Absolutely. I just love. I love her. She's a great villain,
right?
And so it was good to see her. And I did like the Mon-El just kind of joining to help, and they're bantering back and forth. See, I thought that was funny because it seems very, very typical. Because at times, Kara is a very old woman, even though she's very young.
Trapped in a young girl's body.
Yeah,
she's an old soul.
Yeah, well, and also I think she has the burden, which I always think is lovely, of that the shield on you. Like everyone says that, Superman is a big Boy Scout. Well, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's part of his charm. But she is a wonderful, she is a Girl Scout.
Right.
She's always worrying about, being good and making the right decisions. And like when she talks about, I can drink, and like, no, you can't.
Now we find out that part of Roulette's scheme this time is that she's apparently now into slave trafficking and is ready to go ahead and sell these humans to none other than the Dominators.
Yes.
Who are making their return after being in the big Invasion crossover here at the end of last year. So the Dominators are back. Another hand wave that kind of bugged me in this episode is that Jean, the Martian Manhunter, is apparently unable to go across the portal to rescue them because it turns out it's a toxic environment to him. My question, of course, why isn't he wearing a protective suit and just go over there?
You would think there would be a space suit available.
Something.
Yes. I
just treat it like if you were going underwater or something. I don't get why it's like some kind of like special DEO hazmat suit, something.
And I think that's to once again. It's always a flaw in a story when the reason you explain it is, well, because then he would go in too quickly, right? And we don't have a story.
Right. But it turns out their rescuers end up being none other than Supergirl's adoptive sister, Alex, and Wynn, who organize this strike team that go through the portal. And Wynn, of course, helps to unlock the portal, and they eventually get everybody out. and brought over back to Earth. So hooray, everybody's saved. I want to see what else we had. Of course, Izzy ends up getting reunited with her mother, and Wynn, who's been kind of feeling a bit gun-shy after getting the crap kicked out of him, finally kind of rediscovers his bravery a little bit, and kind of when he comes back after this mission, he's like ready to go ahead and assist the Guardian once again.
Yeah, and I like that. I've liked Wynn's journey. Originally he was kind of there to do technobabble and to
comic relief.
And fawn over Kara, and now then I'm kind of glad to see that. I also really liked Alex and Maggie's storyline.
Right.
Yeah. I
are you buying their relationship? Do you think it's a good, well thought out relationship?
I think it is. I think it's an interesting twist that Alex has come out. I buy that character's journey. I also I like the relationship where she's overcompensating because she's always been the big sister, and her mother. You've got to protect Car. You got to protect Car. You got to protect Car.
Right.
And then her being, becoming in all kind of words an intergalactic cop and being in this agency and just this whole feeling of I'm never good as Kara is. Mm-hmm. And then worrying about her so much. And I really liked that Maggie forgave her but told her, this is your one.
Right.
I get this. I understand. I also like the fact that she went, well, yeah, because Kara's Supergirl. And, what? Well, come on. No, you don't care about anyone else except her. And the glasses really don't work, and that was a nice little throwaway line. So, yes, I do like them. I like that relationship. I think it's not, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's just a throwaway.
Right.
I truly think they're telling a different story, and it's enjoyable.
Good. All right. Yeah. I totally agree. I think so too. Yeah. One other thing about this episode is that obviously it's with Kara and Mon-El trapped on this alien world. It's obviously designed to get them closer together.
Yes.
So how are you feeling about Kara and Mon-El's relationship right now?
So,
especially after this episode,
I like their relationship. It's kind of one of those. Sometimes ships are thrown upon you. It's just so obvious. You can see how the sausage is being made that you're kind of, well, I wish it would come around more organically,
right,
or something happening. But I do think the two have good chemistry together, and I do think that it is a trope, but it's an enjoyable trope. The uptight character with the pretty wild and free-going character, and them trying to make something happen.
The opposites attract kind of thing.
Yes,
I totally. Yeah. But of course, it's going to be really interesting if that revelation comes out, which I would think it have to at some point, of that Mon-El has been lying to her about who he really is. And we'll see how that affects their relationship going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So is there anything about this episode before we move on you want to talk about?
No. I think it was good to be back. I enjoyed seeing the interaction, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. But it's just really, I love that. Not only do we have great superhero comic book based shows, but they all are a different tone.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's good.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have a rating for this episode?
I do.
Awesome, yes. I was hoping. I wasn't sure because Jesse was fortunately agreed to help us out, but it was at the last minute.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if you had time to prepare, so
yes,
that's great to hear.
I really like this one a lot. I give it 9 bottles of club soda.
Ooh, very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. Well played. Of course, as I mentioned, I did have a couple of problems with this episode, so it kind of knocked down my grade. I kind of felt that this episode was a little bit of a filler episode. Didn't really advance the overall plot, so I give this one 8 out of 10 yellow sun grenades.
Oh, I did like the...
Which was one of this device to help Supergirl regain her powers temporarily to get them through the portal.
And, one of the criticisms that Kevin Smith talks about is that, his episodes and his movies are mostly talking. But I did think the scene of throwing the bomb and then kind of the big flare and you see her flying was really a nice scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As she regains her powers and it looks all majestic and heroic and what have you. Yeah, I totally agree. Yes. All right, so we're going to move on to Gotham, episode 13 of the third season, Smile Like You Mean It, written by Stephen Lillen and Brian Winbrandt, directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, really.
Now, Jesse, as you mentioned to me in an email that you kind of bailed on Gotham. So before I get into this, I totally get it. So but I'm kind of curious about your reasonings about giving up on Gotham, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
No, I was hoping you'd ask. I think if you had, I was really excited about Gotham.
Right.
Daniel Logue is one of my favorite people, actors. I loved him in Terriers.
I think he's really good as Bullock on the show.
I think he's amazing at Bullock, and I liked Gordon. When he was in Southland.
Ben McKenzie.
Yeah. And I just don't know. I think it got to be. There's so much to watch,
right?
And I found myself watching it almost out of habit and loyalty to the franchise. Like, okay, I love DC Comics and I love Batman, I should be.
You felt obligated. It was almost kind of like a chore, is what you're telling me.
Yes, it was. And I said, Jesse, do you really want TV to be when there is so much TV out there?
Right.
And there's so much other things we could watch. Do you want to do chore? And I love Marina Baccarat. I mean, there is a lot of there. And I just don't like – I didn't enjoy the stories they were telling.
Right.
If this had been – I thought it was going to be more like Gotham Central.
Okay.
And a police procedural that was set in –
I think a lot of us who had read Gotham Central, the DC Comics series by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, and Michael Lark, that I think a lot of us were wanting that.
Yeah.
And we sadly did not get that.
Yeah, and I think they have found the tone they want. It's a little bit campy. It's a little bit out there. I mean, I think they swing big.
Right.
And so I certainly understand someone who says, "Oh, I just love Gotham. I love what they do," and I get it. It's just not something I ended up investing the time in anymore. And what's kind of funny is I tried to watch the episode. I said, okay, I'll just watch it from a fresh perspective. And 10 or 15 minutes into it, I was like, this feels like a chore.
Right.
And I'm just going to bail. Okay.
Fair enough. So let me run through this real quick then.
And what are you thinking of this? What do you think of this?
I'm thinking of this show is that it does get frustrating. I totally get where you're coming from. I think there are moments, and I think this episode's kind of one of them.
Okay.
Where the show tries to have its own voice, and sometimes it succeeds, and it can be entertaining, but it's not the Batman show that we want it to be. Like you have this great potential here with Bruce, and that it's unexplored territory. But I think right now is that they realize that telling Bruce's story wasn't as interesting, so they're trying to emphasize the villains more.
Right.
And as a result, they're just monkeying around with Batman continuity. enough that if you're a Batman fan, a comics fan, it's frustrating.
It is.
If you're a casual Batman fan, you're probably enjoying the show a lot more.
Right.
But if you're a comics fan like I am and you are, you might find the show a bit frustrating.
Okay.
But this story, Smile Like You Mean It, we have essentially we've been dealing with a lot of at the end of the second season, we had a bunch of dead villains that were teased that were going to return to life. One of them was Cameron Monaghan's Jerome, who is essentially the Joker without officially being the Joker.
Right.
Okay. And Cameron Monaghan, great actor, does a really good job as Jerome. He's got his Nicholson impression down cold at times. But you know, so he definitely he's one, and he's kind of a fan favorite character of a lot of these Gotham villains. At least the Gotham's take on the villains, and so bringing him back, fans have been wanting him to be brought back for a long time. So here at last, we finally get that to happen. Basically, they kind of do the science hand wave, and go through. They have this. Essentially, they've built up this cult around Jerome. It's almost like a Joker cult, essentially.
Right.
And there's this. You kind of find that, there's a lot. It's like an underground movement in Gotham right now. And Jerome's body eventually, it gets found, gets recovered by one guy that I'm trying to remember his name, Dwight, that apparently is just really bought into the whole Jerome mystique, and he's promised his fellow cult members that he's going to bring back Jerome from the dead. Okay. And he does so, but at first he doesn't know that he does.
That trick never works.
Exactly. So what happens is he thinks the process hasn't worked, but he's already promised everybody that Jerome is going to make this appearance at this big rally they're holding. So he cuts off the Joker's face in a great nod to the Death in the Family storyline by Scott Snyder in the New 52 Batman series. And wears Jerome's face to this rally. First he pretends to be Jerome. Nobody buys it. So then he comes up he pulls this completely out of his ass and tells the crowd, you are all Jerome. I'm Jerome, but you're Jerome. You're Jerome. We're all Jerome. And that kind of gets them motivated.
Did they never see I Am Spartacus?
Pretty much. That's kind of where this is going. So, unknown to Dwight, however, Jerome actually the procedure did work. He comes back from the dead, ends up breaking loose, getting a hold of Marina Baccarin's character, Leslie Tompkins, and first thing out of his lips is, or at least what's left of his lips, is, what happened to my face? So he eventually gets a hold of his face, he staples it back onto his face.
Ouch.
And I'm trying to figure out, and this is another hand wave, because all he does is kind of staple it around his face. He doesn't surgically attach all the ligaments and facial muscles. So you think that thing would just be loose, flapping around on his face, held on by staples, but of course it's a hand wave. So of course it works perfectly, even though he looks kind of got facial staples all the way around his face. So Jerome's back. He's basically starts wreaking havoc on Gotham City, causes this power surge in the electrical grid that ends up creating a blackout toward the end of the episode. And he broadcasts this live message telling people that, quote, in the darkness there are no rules, and encourages everybody to go kill anyone and do whatever they want to do. And in the morning, they will be reborn. So there we have it. He ends up killing Dwight in the process as he's goes to the power plant. He kidnaps Dwight and triggers these explosives, which knock out the power. So that's kind of like our cliffhanger at the end of the episode, is that Gotham has been plunged in darkness, and all the Joker cultists and Jerome are ready to wreak havoc on Gotham City. and that's kind of like our now the Gotham is going to be new this week, but apparently then it's going to go on hiatus until April because Fox wants to try out a couple new shows in the time slot, see how they do. So that's why Lucifer is also going on hiatus for a little while till April.
Okay.
Or actually, I think May 1st, Lucifer comes back.
Okay.
But so that's going on, and then meanwhile we have Oswald Cobblepot, Mayor Cobblepot.
Yes.
If you remember your Batman Returns.
I do.
Cobblepot's been kind of slowly being brought over the deep end because of this masterful manipulations behind the scenes with the Riddler and Stabby Babs, Barbara Gordon, well, not Barbara Gordon, Barbara Keene, and Tabitha, and they're this little alliance that's going on behind the scenes that have vowed to bring Oswald down because Oswald killed the Riddler's girlfriend and found out about it because Oswald really was actually attracted to the Riddler and wanted him for himself, which obviously breaks from the canon quite considerably.
Yes, I'm.
So see what you've been missing? All this crazy.
I know. I'm kind of not sure how I feel about this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So sorry to blow your mind on this one, but
that's okay.
That's been going on. So they kind of conspire against him, and they basically they kind of triggering a gang war in the process to take down Oswald. So there's a lot going on, and it's not looking good for Oswald. Let's just put it that way. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay.
And,
now,
go ahead.
Do you still find enough? Now, you watch it because one of the things you guys talk about it every week.
Right.
But do you find enough in there that you are, you're finding enough pleasure to keep watching it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
There are little things. One of the things that has been kind of nice this season is the advancement of Bruce and Selina's relationship.
Okay.
They've actually sort of become boyfriend and girlfriend a little bit.
Okay.
And right now there's been this storyline for the past couple episodes involving the return of Selina's mother, who we find out, of course, ends up being part of this scheme to extort $200,000 from Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
And Bruce figures it out pretty much immediately what her mom is up to. Selina was surprised. She's shocked because she kind of, I think, wanted to believe her mom had returned. But then, of course, that just kind of, after the revelation comes out, she tells her mom basically, get out of town, I never want to see you again. And she kind of gets mad at Bruce because Bruce kind of figured this out and didn't clue her in on his plan.
Okay.
And when she confronts Bruce about it, she asks him, why did you go ahead and give her all that money when you knew what she was up to? And he said that it was worth it basically just to keep her happy. Like he was trying to keep Selina happy. He didn't care about her mother.
I didn't care about the money.
Okay. So that was his reasoning, but Selina is still obviously very upset. So things are a little touchy right now between her and Bruce, understandably. So there's things like that. And, I think now that David Mazouz is older and taller, thankfully, and he's been fighting more, that he has a little bit more of an imposing build. So he feels a little bit more like Batman in training. So, which has been nice.
Good. Well, very nice.
And so I think that's been one of the highlights. So there are things. Has it been entirely smooth? Is it exactly the way I want it? No, of course not.
Okay.
And have there been times I've been let down? Sure.
Okay.
But
so, do you have a rating for this one, Charles?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So my rating for this one is 8.5 out of 10 face staples.
Ah, very nice.
Because ow.
Okay, ouch, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on, hopefully to a show that you have been watching. You've been watching the show, but apparently it's been backing up on your DVR a little bit.
Yeah,
We're talking about Lucifer.
Yeah, and I will tell you, part of this is deliberate. the first season, I just didn't ever find time to watch it, and so I had the whole season on the DVR,
right?
And so I binged watched it and loved everything about it. And so I said, okay, when it comes back, I'm going to be on time. And then all of a sudden they started going, and now I'm like, do I want to just binge watch again? Because it's really good.
So you're intentionally stockpiling episodes.
Yes, so this is more,
maybe with the show going on hiatus, you can catch up.
Right. Yeah, this is one of those things where I'm delaying. My pleasure. I love the tone of this show, and I love how that. Because originally I did not read the comic,
right?
And I didn't. I'm like, how do you have the story where Lucifer, the evil, incarnate, as your main
lead character?
Yeah.
Did you read Neil Gaiman's Sandman at all?
Yes, I read Sandman.
Okay,
yeah.
so you were familiar with Lucifer from that series,
right?
Because that was the same character in the comic. Is that it was basically spun out of Sandman?
Yeah, and so I love the idea that.
So you were familiar with the Season of Mists storyline where Lucifer leaves hell.
Yes,
and eventually Morpheus, the Sandman, has to find a replacement.
Right.
So
yes, and so I like the idea that Lucifer truly is a cast-out angel.
Right.
And he is the ruler of Hades, hell.
Right.
But it's not necessarily the mythological, Satan on your shoulder urging you to do bad things. It is just purely that is his role. And so I like the idea that they play the role just well enough that he certainly relishes, sin and debauchery, but not necessarily, wanting bad things to happen necessarily to good people.
Right.
But it's a very fine line. I also really love.
He does enjoy the punishment of bad people, though.
Yes, he does, and I mean that makes sense. And I also think that. His relationship with him and his angel brother is really well done. You can't see. So.
Yeah. For those, I'm a little distracted because Jesse's son Chris is kind of like walking around, doing laundry or something. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah. So
or getting ready to get a shower. I'm not sure what's going on there.
There is a audio. We do audio, but because so Charles and I can see our face, we always record with the camera. And so yes, Chris is behind me getting ready. He's heading over to a friend's house to watch a pay-per-view, a WWE pay-per-view. And so yes, he's wandering around. So yes,
that's pretty funny. Sorry about the distraction.
No problem.
So okay, so but what you've been watching of this show, you've been enjoying.
Absolutely, and
you enjoy Tom Ellis's Lucifer?
Oh, I think he's great. I just think, and I'm not worried about the show being spoiled because by the time I get to this episode, I'm not going to remember what we talked about. So.
Well, that's good.
So
it's nice to know I'm so memorable when they're discussing.
Yeah. So tell me. Okay. Have you felt like, because I really thought it was a strong first season.
Yes.
Do you think they've continued that bar for the second season?
I think it was a little touch and go at first, but then now I think it's great. I think that they've kind of found their rhythm overall, and they have more of the characters interacting with one another as opposed to being kind of self-contained. Like Dr. Linda pretty much talks to everybody on the show now. Because now she's actually in on Lucifer's secret. So
okay, that's a nice thing.
That's kind of a big spoiler, but
no, that's okay. I like that actress from Suits.
Yes,
and so I like seeing her. So that's cool.
Yeah, so it's been good because it's she can talk to Mazikeen now about stuff. She's actually in on the central storylines, and she's involved more, which is great. Because Rachel Harris, I really enjoy her a lot. Ever since she was on The Daily Show, I thought she was great. So great comedian.
Absolutely.
So this episode, Love Handles, written by Alex Katznelson, directed by Karen, not our Karen Gaviola. And this story kind of picks up with a cliffhanger from last week where Lucifer and Chloe finally kiss. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. And what happens next? Well, we start off with a sequence where Lucifer and Chloe come out of this elevator, end up on the couch, and they're getting all hot and bothered. But, of course, his horns pop out, and you're like, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, it turns out to be a dream. So, dun, 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 yeah. So that happened. But essentially, Lucifer's trying to... The kiss apparently did happen, and we're trying to... Not what happened with this whole sequence starting off the episode, but... so Lucifer's kind of trying to come to terms with it and trying to figure out how to progress in their relationship, I guess. And Chloe, meanwhile, is kind of in like a little denial over it. And Mazikeen, her roommate, yes, they're roommates now. So you've got that to look forward to.
Okay, very nice. And
basically, Mazikeen's just kind of laughing at her, and saying that she needs to go out and get laid, and that she encourages Chloe to become impulsive, and so at first, Chloe actually tries to act carefree, and it kind of freaks Lucifer out.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's still like, she kind of openly flirts with him, kind of grabs his butt at one point, and he's not, like, she's trying to be more impulsive, and it just totally throws him off his game because he's not sure how to deal with this version of Chloe. So it's kind of like an interesting role reversal in this episode where you've got Chloe being the overt flirtatious one, and Lucifer is the standoffish, like, I don't know how to deal with this, stick in the mud.
Okay.
So it's a nice little juxtaposition for once. Part of the storyline has been the 3-part storyline involving this poison that there's basically, you find out that there's this scientist named Professor Carlisle who has been conducting all these morbid experiments to prove that all humans would make this choice that he did to leave people to die. And so he's basically a chemistry whiz and has created these like custom-made poisons and toxins that require a specific antidote. And so Lucifer and Chloe have been kind of involved with this case. They end up confronting the guy. Chloe ends up catching up with him at one point in this episode, and the Carlisle pulls out a knife. You think he's going to go after Chloe, but instead he slits his own throat, and that basically says he's trying to make his case that what he did was right. He tries to rationalize this madness that's going on. So Lucifer, in the process of saving Chloe from that, or actually, Chloe thinks that Lucifer has been in danger at this point. So they kind of reunite after these traumatic events of him slitting his own throat and whatnot. She jumps into his arms, and Lucifer kind of accepts that this is actually happening. They're actually close together now. And so, but later, of course, Lucifer ends up meeting up with Mazikeen and Charlotte, his mother, who is played by, what's her name from Battlestar Galactica? Tricia Helfer. So
yes, I did see her. Yeah. The first episode I watched had her ending with that, and that's another reason why would really... I've been looking forward to seeing this. Yes. Yeah,
so obviously she's been up to no good, because if you get Tricia Helfer for something, you're getting kind of a very villainous character.
Yes.
So Charlotte's whole deal is that, to boil it down essentially, is that she's been trying to divide Lucifer and Chloe so that she can bring Lucifer back, and like Lucifer and Amenadiel, her two sons, and they can return to the Silver City.
Okay.
That's her goal. But Lucifer, of course, is hung up on Chloe.
Yes.
So Charlotte's been trying to manipulate the situation. So she gets a hold of Mazikeen, tells her this very important secret, and that secret that she tells Lucifer is that about Amenadiel, the reason why Chloe affects Lucifer in the sense that, whenever she's close by, he's essentially rendered mortal and can be harmed, is that Chloe's parents apparently had trouble conceiving, and God supposedly sent Amenadiel to become involved and make sure that Chloe ended up happening. So there's kind of a divine influence over Chloe.
And I take it we don't know why.
We don't know exactly why, but so Mazikeen and Charlotte end up telling Lucifer about this. That there's a picture they show him of Amenadiel and Chloe's mother, Penelope, and Charlotte tells Lucifer that his father put Chloe into his life, and that even though Lucifer doesn't want to believe it, he kind of starts to realize that it's true. That Chloe has basically been part of his father's plan, whatever that is.
Okay.
So he rushes to Chloe's house at the end of the episode to confront her about all this, finds her upstairs in the bathroom. She turns around and, her nose is bleeding. She's been poisoned. And that's our cliffhanger.
Oh, well, unlike your Gotham recap, this makes me want to go pull the episodes I have in my DVR and watch them. So
you've been missing some good stuff.
This sounds really, really good. Yes.
I enjoyed this episode. I gave it, even though it's kind of the middle episode of the 3-part storyline. I give it 8 out of 10 bloody noses but I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, good. All right.
So
very nice.
All right. So let's get to a show you have been watching, I presume, The Flash.
Yes.
Episode 10 of the 3rd season, Borrowing Problems from the Future.
Yes.
And this is the, of course, mid-season premiere, written by Graney Godfrey and David Cobb, directed by Millicent Shelton.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on The Flash, and what have you been enjoying the season, not enjoying the season?
No, I have been enjoying it a lot. At times, time travel can give me tired head.
You're co-host on a Doctor Who podcast, Next Stop Everywhere.
I understand, but in Doctor Who does time travel the right way. No. He's gone in the past and changed things, right?
Right. Yeah, several times, yes.
Yeah, and so that's kind of...
You're talking Barry Allen.
Yeah, and so I think it is... I'm glad he finally told them. I'm not a big fan of our characters keeping secrets. I think it's and I'm going to be cruel, I think it's lazy writing. I think it is... it should be used only sparingly. And so I was very frustrated at first, but then happy with this episode where Barry comes totally clean with Iris and said, okay, this is what I'm worrying about.
Right.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
And I do get that sometimes, you cause the very thing you're trying to do, right? What's the
like
fable?
A self-fulfilling prophecy? Is that kind of what you're thinking about?
Yeah, and I'm going to get the cities wrong, but there's the story that, Death sees a guy in Dallas,
right,
and he looks shocked, and so the guy says, oh my God, and he flies to New York City, and then Death takes him in New York City and says, well, what? And he says, that's why I was shocked. I had an appointment to kill you in New York City, and I was shocked you were in Dallas. And they're actually Mid or Eastern cities in the parable. But so I do get that, but I'm glad they talked about it. And I do like Iris and I like Barry together. So though I really liked the reporter last season.
Okay.
Yeah, whoever that actress had a lot of chemistry. And
oh, you mean Linda Park?
Yeah, the Linda Park character. Partly because that's
Melise Zhao, by the way.
I remember, when after the first crisis and the only crisis I acknowledge, Wally became our Flash,
right.
And I liked that relationship. I thought this was a great episode. I thought the villain was well done. I do want to hear your thoughts on this new Wells guy. I'm just, well,
obviously you haven't been listening to the Phantom Zone podcast.
No, I haven't. I apologize.
So, shame on you, but basically I've been kicking around this theory for quite a few episodes now about H.R. Wells.
Yes.
And, excuse me, my theory is that because Wells has shown signs that he loves applause and he loves approval and is kind of an attention hound.
Yes.
And has this fondness for waving around his drumstick all over the place and pointing with it.
I see where you're going.
That he's been, kind of waves it around, and it looks a lot like a magic wand at times that he waves it around. So my theory, and I'm hoping is right, is that HR is in fact, in this, at least this, version of Wells, is abracadabra.
Mm.
At least they're this TV show's version of abracadabra.
Okay.
And we'll see if I'm right, because abracadabra is like the last big classic Flash rogue we haven't seen yet on the show. So I have to imagine he's going to appear at some point. So maybe this is how they do him. And because remember, in first season, Wells turned out to be the Reverse Flash.
Yes.
So who's to say that maybe a Wells on another Earth isn't another supervillain?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Anything that keeps Tom Cavanaugh appearing on the show, I'm happy with.
Right.
Big fan, and so I just am not sure. But now that you've given this theory,
and he has a lot of secret. He has a lot of secret technology.
Yes,
he's not talking about.
He does. Yes.
So what if he's actually from the 64th century?
Ooh, maybe so.
We'll find out, but
yes.
Yeah, I'm hoping. So we'll see. We'll see if that theory works out. But so yeah, as you mentioned, Barry finally comes clean about the vision he had of Savitar killing Iris. Ends up telling everyone, which is good because, hey, this is important. And he takes Iris to the secret room. The original fake Wells, the Reverse Flash, Eobard, had. Right. His little braille room, as I like to call it, because it looks like braille on the walls. And, he talks about he shows Iris the holographic newspaper that he keeps checking to see if the future changes. And apparently, this time right now, it's currently showing a different reporter writing this article that the Flash disappears and not Iris, West Allen.
Yes.
Which is kind of a big deal. So Barry eventually reveals everything to everybody but Joe. They want to keep him out of the loop. And the team obviously decides, hey, maybe we could change the course of events to prevent Iris's death from actually happening.
Yes.
So then they come up with this bright idea maybe we could figure out the events leading up to Iris's death and change those. So Cisco, hey, he's got these vibe powers. So why don't we put those to use? So using Cisco, they start Barry. I guess they access Barry's memories about things, and you find out that there's news that the Star Labs museum's going to close. Caitlin's going to become Killer Frost, which obviously freaks her out. And in the future, and this is now. This is being shown that Wells suddenly has a rifle that he's pointing at Savitar, which apparently he didn't have in Barry's original vision. So already the future is already being changed. So the question is, where does Wells get that rifle? Well, hey, there's this villain that's introduced this week called Plunder, and he has a rifle that looks kind of like that rifle there. And so my theory is that Wells somehow gets a hold of Plunder's rifle and shows up at that point, now that history's been altered.
Yeah.
Hopefully not through time travel, but what HR does with it, we won't know, but I guess we'll find out, because as we found out that, hey, the date that all this happens just probably will be the date of the Series 3 finale, or Season 3 finale in May.
Just so happens
that, the season finale is going to have... Yep, so I know, and, your dog is, like, all excited about it, too. Charlie. So that's going on.
Julian joins the team.
There's kind of like Barry and I end up having a housewarming party. They kind of discussed it earlier. They're like, do we bring him on the team? Do we not? They bring him on the team. So he's all happy about that. Barry kind of gives Wally some crap because... and kind of unfairly, he's a bit of a jerk to Wally. So I'm getting really kind of tired of Barry being written as a jerk.
Yes, I agree.
That's on the writers, and I'm looking at you, writers, that you should be writing Barry Allen a little better here, a little more heroic, okay, and not making all these bad decisions. It is his show after all. And then, but Barry eventually realizes that the way to change the first event is to let Wally capture Plunder instead of him. So, essentially Wally as Kid Flash gets all the credit. It's kind of like Kid Flash's, first public appearance. So the crowd's all happy about him. They accept him. They did make a joke about, like, hey, maybe, they have this cop earlier in the episode that, hey, maybe Kid Flash should go to Central or Keystone City. Maybe they need a hero over there, and we could keep the Flash here. So I'm kind of wondering, will Wally end up going to Keystone City, as he did in the comics?
Right. It was good to see Greg Gumbel there.
Yeah. It's basically J.J. Abrams' Lucky Charm.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
Greg Grunberg.
Yeah, wait a minute. Is J.J. directing this one?
Yeah, old Snap Wexley from Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Yes, indeed.
So that was going on. Barry ends up apologizing, thankfully, to Joe about being a jerk. So I was glad to see that.
I was too.
And the cliffhanger we get is that there's this mysterious woman who shows up at the end of the episode through this portal, pulls out this pocket-sized hologram of none other than HR. Looks like she's hunting Wells. Now... As I know,
feed your story.
It might. Now, the character is it's an actress named Jessica Camacho. She's playing a character known as Gypsy. And Gypsy, if you're an old Justice League of America fan, was a member of the Justice League Detroit back in the day and was partners with Vibe on that team. So I'm guessing we're going to see some Gypsy and Vibe interaction next week.
I'm kind of curious for that. I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
So apparently maybe Gypsy's been completely rewritten in this continuity. Isn't our traditional Gypsy, because God forbid we have something traditional in this show. And we'll see what happens. But so that's all I have about this episode. Anything else you want to talk about this episode?
No, I was happy. It was good stuff. I like that Julian is joining the team. Right. I think that Tom is a good actor.
Felton,
yeah. Really neat guy, and so I'm happy to see that. I think this was a solid episode, and I'd give it 8 not quite ready for primetime holograms.
Well, see, that was part of kind of mine. I gave it 8.5. I enjoyed this one a little bit better. Malfunctioning Cisco holograms, so we're pretty close on that one.
We did. We both. That's very nice. Yeah. We didn't talk about what do you think about the whole plan to have them make this museum and all this.
HR is really insistent about this museum.
Yes.
About making this museum happen. The question is why?
Yeah, I don't know why. Is it later going to become a Flash museum?
Well, that's what I'm kind of wondering, but, maybe. Maybe the Star Labs will end up becoming a Flash museum at some point.
Okay.
So that would be kind of cool.
It would be.
But we'll see. So maybe he's just trying to ensure that the Flash museum happens for some reason.
Who knows?
That could be part of the plan. So, all right, let's move on to the other new Tuesday night show, Legends of Tomorrow, now from Thursday. So, episode 9 of the second season, Raiders of the Lost Art, which I love that title. I think that's my favorite title of the week. And I think this was actually my favorite episode this week. Written by Kato Shimizu and Chris Fedek, directed by Dermot Downs. And this series, I have to think you've been enjoying this one, because this is Legends of Tomorrow in the second season has become a pretty fun series.
Yes, it is. In fact, I love the idea that they kind of make fun of themselves when they're talking about the film and like, a film is all about its villain, and look at our villain. We have nothing. A
little meta, maybe?
Yes, a little meta. Though I liked the first season, and it didn't bother me.
I did too. I liked the first season a lot.
But I've liked the Steel and Adam kind of brother
bromance
relationship. Yeah, this kind of competitive with each other. And I just really love that they put White Canary in charge. She's the captain.
I think she's done a good job as leader.
I think she has too, and I like. I think Mick is still. I mean, he's become their version of Jane,
right? From Firefly.
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about that, but I think you're right.
Yeah, he's not changed, but he is at least part of the team. I think they kind of their whole purpose of kind of the Spear of Destiny as the MacGuffin, which I think was a great shout out to. Yes, right. I've loved seeing the Justice Society scenes earlier. I know as a Starman, you and I both fans, we got a kick out of that.
Right.
There's just it is a sense of play. It's a sense of adventure. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think right now of the 4 CW shows, I think it's the most fun.
Yes. And I think that's truly what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to do almost a
adventure of the week.
Yeah, Saturday morning serial that we're just let's just go have on, which is kind of funny when we think about Star Wars when they're to Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but that sense of we're going to have an adventure, we're going to roll. It's been very, very well done.
Right. So the premise of this episode is that there is I guess they've been looking for the Spear of Destiny. They find out that the Spear of Destiny is very important. Obviously, it was important to the Justice Society mythos because, as I mentioned before in the podcast, you weren't here, obviously, but that the Spear of Destiny in the comics was the mystical artifact that Adolf Hitler used to keep the Justice Society out of Europe during World War II. And so here in this continuity, in this series, I guess they end up going to Los Angeles in 1967, where they end up confronting Damien Dark and Malcolm Merlyn, who are attempting to kidnap Rip Hunter, who is not Rip Hunter, because his memories have been altered. We're not quite sure how yet, because last we see of him is in a little prelude that he ends up there's all this chaos going on. He recovers the spear in this flashback sequence, shuts down Gideon's systems, and prepares to grab this ball of energy in the ship's time drive. The question is, did this completely wipe out his memories, or rewrite his history, or what have you? We don't know yet. But apparently Rip doesn't have any memories of his previous adventures, and he's training under the director, George Lucas. Yes, that George Lucas actually becomes a character in Legends of Tomorrow, which is pretty awesome. Even though that beard the actor was wearing was completely fake.
Yeah, that was a bad beard.
It was a bad beard. So there's this big free-for-all. Rip ends up getting arrested by the police. And we find out later in the episode that Nate and Ray, Citizen Steel and the Atom, have apparently lost their special abilities and their, Ray's armored suit or what have you, because the timeline has been altered because Lucas has decided, I'm going to quit filmmaking. And in this great scene where White Canary realizes this, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that because George Lucas quit filmmaking, you two bozos have lost your powers and you're completely useless?
Yeah.
And yes, apparently, because Lucas was apparently a big source of inspiration to Nate as an archaeologist because of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and to Ray because of Star Wars. So...
And, I love the idea that, it is very much the whole small things helping you. Right. And they did it really subtle at first, where I can't think of the word, and all of a sudden they're going away, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. So, very happy to see this. The bro romance, the back and forth. And I've liked seeing the reoccurring villains this season.
The Legion of Doom.
Yes, they are. They are very, very nice.
Who finally officially get a name this episode.
Yes,
which is a great nod to the Super Friends cartoon.
Yes, and they're like, we're not going to call him the Legend of Doom. Yep. Sure we are. Yeah, so that was great.
And of course, because this is George Lucas is in play, there's a bunch of Indiana Jones and Star Wars in-jokes and references. Yes. One of my personal favorites in this episode was there's a sequence where the Legion gets a hold of Vixen, Ray, and Nate, and they end up forcing them to go through this trash compactor to recover this fragment of the Spear of Destiny.
Yes.
And Lucas is there, of course. And, to kind of accelerate the process, they turn on the trash compactor and the walls are closing in. And even you have Vixen completely recreating, the Carrie Fisher's line from Star Wars where,
yeah, let's try to jam.
Let's try to brace it with something, and yes. Which was just this beautiful nod to Star Wars, and of course Lucas. This obviously influences Lucas, right. Which was great, and I just love that idea. I thought it was just a lot of fun,
and it's a really nice take on It's a Wonderful Life without going overly sentimental about that.
Okay.
And then I love the whole you have to believe you have to believe, and have the catchphrase of what I really want to do is direct, which is a a common cliche,
right?
And everything, and all of a sudden, through the miracle of time travel.
Yeah, that apparently locks it in that Lucas is going to become the director, and everything's restored, and everybody gets their powers back, and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was great. Now, Rip, at the end of the episode, does not get rescued by the Legends. They gets taken by the Legion of Doom, and they confront him. The Legion does. About the Spear of Destiny. Rip's like, hey, I just totally bluffed you guys, pretending to be Rip Hunter. I don't know anything about my true identity or the spear. And then last thing we see is Malcolm and Damien Dark brought in to torture Rip.
Yes.
So that's our cliffhanger.
Yeah. So it's a good storyline. I love the going back to the different time eras. So.
Oh, and I forgot that we also got a little development with Mick Rory, Heatwave.
Yes.
Because Mick, who's been seeing visions of Captain Cold, his dead partner, he tells Stein about this, Professor Stein.
Yes.
Professor Stein reveals that, oh, hey, it wasn't the chip in your brain that got taken out that was causing these hallucinations. It hasn't been working for a while now. So maybe it's emotional. Maybe you're feeling guilty about something.
Right.
So, and of course, Heatwave has no time for that.
No.
I'm Heatwave. I have no, that can't be. That's not possible.
I wonder if we have not seen, but is there a replicator or something? Is that why they keep getting beer?
I have to think. Or, it's every time maybe they stop off somewhere like 1967, they raid they go raid, like the grocery store or whatever, get stocked up on beer, and then they come in, like one of those like deleted scenes we should have of like Heatwave bringing in this big case of beer to stock.
Yes, exactly. That would be awesome. Yes,
but every time he seems like he's got a plenty good supply of beer handy. So I thought that's funny.
Yeah,
that's great. All right. So anything else about this episode you want to talk about?
No. I was once again. It was really nice to get all our shows back, and very happy to see this one.
Yep.
I would give it 9 plaid shirts.
Very nice. We are totally in sync on this one. This is my favorite show of the week.
Yes.
I give it also a 9. 9 Spear of Destiny fragments.
Ooh, very nice.
So, or I could have done 9 trash compactors. I was considering that one as well. But
very good.
Lots of fun, and I just dig this show so much.
Yes.
I know the ratings haven't been great, but it did get picked up for season 3, so hooray for that. So, all right. Moving on. We're almost done. We only got 2 more shows.
Okay.
All right. So, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., episode 11 of the 4th season, Wake Up, written by Drew Z. Greenberg of Buffy fame and Angel fame, and Daredevil, I believe. Directed by Jesse Bochco.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a show you haven't been watching, I'm guessing, either?
I have not been watching. Once again, it was just a little bit... it was feeling a little bit like a chore, but I did watch all of this episode.
Okay, so you did watch this
So
episode.
I was able to... it did not feel like a chore. I was confused a lot.
Right, because you missed so many episodes.
Yes, and
did you enjoy it? Did you get into it?
I did, and I think maybe because May is one of my favorite characters, so I liked her kind of.
Yeah, this was definitely a big May episode.
And I always enjoy. I don't know if you watched Person of Interest.
I know of it, but I wasn't a regular watcher of it.
Yeah, so that there was a show, the whole idea is this AI computer, and there was one episode that ended up being nothing but the computer going through all the different scenarios of how what plan they could give to get the heroes out of a tight spot.
Right.
And so this is, I love the idea that this is May and she's kind of locked into this loop that each time she doesn't realize it.
But apparently every time she goes through it, she does better.
Yes.
And as we find out, and May gets a little encouraged by this, that at some point she's going to break free because she does get better at it.
Yeah. And so I liked her, I didn't understand, the Daisy and the new director, I didn't understand that storyline, though I like that actor.
Yeah, Jason O'Mara.
Yeah.
Who also does the voice of Batman in the current DC animated movies.
Oh, very nice. He had been in a couple things.
Life on Mars, the U.S. version of Life on Mars.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the only few people that really enjoyed the American version of Life on Mars.
No, actually, I enjoyed it too. I just didn't. I liked the U.K. version better.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the U.S. version a lot.
Yeah, I think that the separate. It's okay to be a little different. So he's. So I like this one a lot. There's. so I'm looking forward to you explaining some of the things as you talk about this. But the performances were good, and I'm a little more inclined to kind of watch, but
or at least maybe catch up the past few episodes, see what you've been missing.
Yeah, I just
maybe you can start off maybe with the season 4, and go from there.
So I mean, I stayed all the way through last season. It's just this season I picked up. I just don't know where they're going. Okay, I think that's my problem with
there doesn't seem to be an overall goal with this show.
Right.
It just seems like, okay, well, right now this is the second, like they're breaking the season up into arcs, and this is the second arc of the season that just kind of started here when the show came back. It's called, the overall story is now LMD, which is short for Life Model Decoy, which is a S.H.I.E.L.D. comic book staple, where you have these androids that are perfect duplicates of humans that S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury uses in the comics, and as decoys to in case people are trying to assassinate him or whatever,
right?
Or if he needs to like misdirect somebody, So, but here we have this AI named Ada, who's played by an actress named Mallory Jensen. She was created by this guy named Holden Radcliffe, played by John Hannah from The Mummy. And Ada,
I always think of him for weddings and a funeral, but yes,
right. But fair enough. And it's been fun, and she's kind of basically totally going the like evil robot that ends up trying to take over the world. And then they've been making some references to this in the past couple episodes, where you have the characters Mac and Yo-Yo Rodriguez, Slingshot from the Secret Warriors. They're trying to tell everybody, hey, have you not seen a movie from the 80s where like the Terminator or the Matrix or what have you, where the robots end up taking over, and this is a really bad thing, and why are you people getting involved with these androids? So that's been kind of pretty humorous. And so part of what's going on with May is that she's been captured, put in this virtual reality, and replaced with an LMD version of herself to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. And so that's been like, basically we've got another person trying to impersonate Agent May, like Agent 33 back in the day. So that's going on. We've got this Senator Nadir, who is on this committee that's been formed because of the Sokovia Accords as a kind of an oversight group. And she has an agenda of her own because she's anti-inhuman.
Yeah.
And has been secretly backing this group called the Watchdogs. And the Watchdogs are basically like a inhuman hate group. And so that's going on. The director, Jeffrey Mace, who is the Patriot from the comic books, who was another Captain America. He was the Captain America that was brought in to replace Captain America after Steve Rogers ended up in suspended animation at the end of World War II.
Okay.
So we found out in the previous episode that he previously claimed that he had these superpowers because he was an Inhuman, but it turns out, guess what? He's been juicing up on this super soldier serum, so that got exposed, and Coulson, who was replaced as director by Jeffrey Mace, ends up becoming director of S.H.I.E.L.D. again.
Okay.
So at this point in this story, Coulson's director again, and they're basically trying to get some information from Senator Nadir. They suspect her that she's up to no good, so they go rifling through her office, end up getting busted, as you see in this episode.
Right.
And then obviously it's like gives Senator Nadir like, hey, full clearance to just go ahead and call out S.H.I.E.L.D. and get them under investigation. So she flips it on them. It's all been this big trap. And they fell for it rather easily, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, and then you get a little backstory with Fitz, who earlier in the season is essentially like he was aware of Radcliffe and Ada, and he kind of saw Radcliffe as a sort of mentor, or at least someone he could talk to. And now, now he feels betrayed by Radcliffe after all this stuff comes out, and so that's going on. And it kind of looks like Radcliffe is really kind of like the big mastermind behind things, as we find out. That although it looks like I guess Radcliffe is told by Senator Nadir that he's going to have to meet with the superior, whoever the superior is. So maybe there's somebody above him controlling everything. We don't know who that is yet. So that's kind of a mystery. And we're kind of left at the end of the episode with May. Radcliffe puts May into this new virtual reality program to keep her on ice called that basically makes her relive the events in Bahrain, where she got that nickname, the Cavalry.
Yes.
Which, if you remember, was a pretty good episode where we find out the reason why May left S.H.I.E.L.D. and ended up like just wanting to become a nobody in records because she couldn't cope with being a field agent because this girl died during this operation that she was involved with. Well, here in this version of Bahrain, it turns out she actually saves the girl. So the question is, how will she kind of get lured in by whatever events play out from there? And we'll find out.
Yeah, I was a little bit interested in seeing that after that part of the episode. So I may end up doing selective viewing. I normally do not do that. I do not normally fast forward through just, things. But there was enough in there that I kind of enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully at least it gets you a little more curious about check things out.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about this episode?
No, I it's kind of hard for me to give a rating since I was kind of
that's fair.
Lost on it. So how about you?
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. It's kind of been, I've been feeling that Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't hit it the major part of this storyline yet. So I think this one's kind of coasting a little bit.
Okay.
I gave it a solid 8, but 8 out of 10 LMD receptors.
Ah, very nice.
Which is a reference to the that severed head of a previous version of Ada that Fitz was using and was, I guess, Senator Nadir was watching what was going on through these receptors in the LMD head. So
okay, good.
All right, last show. We're almost done.
Yay!
Yay!
We've had fun.
I hope so. I hope you've had fun.
Yes.
All right, so Arrow 510, episode 10 of the 5th season. Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you? Who?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Written by Ben Sokolowski and Brian Ford Sullivan, directed by Gregory Smith. And Jesse, what have you been thinking about Arrow this season?
I don't understand the flashback.
Right.
Of course, that's been a common theory of this.
With the Bratva and
it is
becoming a Russian mobster and
I think to a certain degree, and only my opinion, the flashbacks portion has not worked since the first season. It's been a little too complicated, and I haven't enjoyed this. But that said, modern era.
See, I think the flashbacks have been good this season compared to last season, which they were horrible.
Yes, and I think if we end up getting to find out why, because in the first season he was he had that background that he was a Russian captain and such.
Right.
I do like the current timeline. I am glad that Felicity
modern day storytelling.
I'm glad that Felicity is not holding it against Oliver that he killed her boyfriend. I think that would have been an easy way to go, and I'm glad they didn't go there. I like Adrian Chase, and I kept thinking, okay, what he is. Yes, there he is. I like, the kind of the outsiders that Oliver has built together.
I kind of like that you're calling them the outsiders because they do seem like the like an outsiders group that could be assembled in the DC universe.
Yeah, and I always liked Katie Cassidy, so I was glad to see her back, and in a not cheap way. I think they explained it pretty well.
Well, they established Black Siren on the Flash.
Yes.
So at least they set it up there, so they didn't have to explain too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's like, hey, Laurel's back. That was our cliffhanger at the end of 2016, right. And then here we are, like, okay, she's back, and obviously, that was one of the theories that fans had was that it was actually Black Siren. Turns out, yep, she was Black Siren, all right.
I'm a little confused on how they're getting money to fund all this.
Yeah, because remember, Oliver's supposed to be broke now, right?
Yes, he is, and Felicity no longer owns, is no longer CEO of the company, and so
maybe Felicity's embezzling money from somewhere.
Yeah, maybe
like
so.
By computer.
She's rolling out the less than 1 cent. And putting it away.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm.
That's only one of a number of handways on this show.
Yeah. I love Curtis,
yep.
And I like his. I've enjoyed his journey and what he's trying to do. I think Rory as the Ragman is interesting, as is Ramirez as the wild dog.
Right.
Yeah. This is just, I think, and the reason I call them the outsiders, right, is that, Batman, who the Dark Knight, the Solo, someone made a joke, yet you've been a member of the Justice League, you've been the outsiders, and it seems like you team up with someone on a monthly basis,
Well, Arrow does tend to use Oliver as a Batman substitute.
Yes, they do.
So it does make kind of sense that instead of Batman and the Outsiders, you have the Green Arrow and the Outsiders here.
Yeah, and I liked Adrian coming up with the twist on how he could keep Diggle safe.
Right. I thought that was pretty good. I like that.
I thought that was really well done. I did like the team going, we haven't even buried, the detective yet, and we're having a party. And so it was, I liked it a lot. I thought this was a really well done story, and it's moving forward well. And I get Oliver's guilt about, if I can save Laurel, I need to. And I also get Felicity going, it's not your Laurel. This isn't your Laurel whatsoever.
Yeah, but my problem, though, I did have a little bit of a problem with her, Felicity, taking over the group from Oliver. Mm-hmm. Where she's so got it in her head. She's so fixated that, you can't be impartial because you're hung up on Laurel and you think that she's your Laurel. So therefore I got to step in and I got to take over. Mm-hmm. And that kind of frustrated me. It was like, Felicity, the show is called Arrow, not Felicity. Oliver should be leading the group. I think, and you don't really know exactly where his head's at. So I think you're kind of presuming a little bit here.
But I think that's part of her grief. And this is how I explained it is, she is very upset.
Right. And
she's very, she is in her grief. And
if she's grieving, then she really shouldn't be part of the missions, should she?
But she can't see that, that's why. So it didn't bother me at all. I thought it was pretty in character. Now, was it a smart thing to do? Absolutely not. But very, very cool.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. One of the other things I like now. We talked about the flashbacks a little bit earlier. One of the part of this flashback was kind of important is that we get the introduction of Talia Al Ghul, the other Al Ghul daughter of Ra's al Ghul, also known as the mother of Damian Wayne.
Yes.
In Batman lore,
yeah,
Bruce's the mother of Bruce Wayne's son, Damian.
Right.
So, played by Alexa Doig from, I think she was on, was the show Andromeda, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Yeah.
But so we're obviously gonna see more of Talia, probably in the modern day, and so that should be interesting. And I'm dying to see the two Al Ghul sisters, Nissa and Talia, together at last. That should be fun. You have to bring Nissa back if you've got Talia. So
absolutely.
Hopefully that happens.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. We kind of get a little bit more with Prometheus, but. Prometheus is essentially I don't find him very compelling as a villain right now.
Okay.
I think they were kind of teasing that maybe he's Tommy Merlin. Now, partly though, there was an interesting theory that I was talking with people on Twitter. I was live tweeting the show.
Okay.
And one of the things that came up was that they made this comment that Prometheus makes this comment that he's immune to drugs. I've built up a tolerance to drugs, so you can't take me out as easily as you think so.
Okay.
And they also make a point of writing Thea out of the episode. So what if this has all been a misdirection, that somehow it's actually Thea under that Prometheus mask?
Okay. I know
it's a completely weird theory because the guy's got a man's build. But if this is like a disguise or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Does it sound like Michael Dorn to you a little bit?
It is Michael Dorn doing the voice of Prometheus.
Okay, it is?
So yeah, every time I hear Prometheus talk, I'm like, okay, don't piss off the Klingon, okay?
Exactly.
It's Worf from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Okay.
But yes, he talks with this very distinct, deep voice. And yeah.
Yes, he is. Okay.
So yeah,
Good.
I think that's kind of funny. Let's see, that... I wish Curtis would kind of step up and be Mr. Terrific more than getting his ass kicked. He seems like he's getting tired of getting his ass kicked too.
Yes.
And because I'm so used to Mr. Terrific from the comics that it's kind of frustrating me, because in the comics, Mr. Terrific is like this great athlete. He's incredibly brilliant, and he's like the perfect guy. That's why he's Mr. Terrific.
Right.
So shouldn't Mr. Terrific on the TV show be a little more terrific?
I think that's a fair thing, so yes.
So I'd like to...
Okay.
And the big thing that I love this episode is that ugly, ugly Black Canary statue finally was destroyed.
Wow.
That ugly statue that looked nothing like Katie Cassidy was destroyed.
Okay, so you're happy with that.
Very happy that the statue was destroyed. So, yes. Okay. So I'm very happy about that.
Nice.
Now, we have this bit at the end, though. We get to another teaser, cliffhanger, is that there's this bar in Hub City. Hub City, the Blue Beetle, the Question. Just saying. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be nice to see the Question on this show?
Yes.
We have these two thugs coercing this barmaid to have sex with them, when all of a sudden this new unidentified female character, protects her by throwing the thugs out of a window using a sonic scream.
Wow.
So here we go.
We will see what happens.
We have another Black Canary in the mix.
Okay.
Probably. So yeah.
All right.
That's a new actress, new character named Tina Boland, played by Julia Harkavy.
I did see that, Tina Boland, and I was wondering who that was.
Yeah, this is some new character they've invented. She doesn't come from the comics, so.
Okay.
So anybody looking for her in the comics, she doesn't exist.
Okay, good.
All right, so what was your rating for this episode?
I'm going to give this 8 glasses of water, though she really wanted to grab the champagne. And she realized, oh, wait. So, yes. It continues to be, I do never feel like watching any of the CW shows are a chore. I like each of them, so I'm happy with that. Okay.
I was a little less generous than you in this one. I gave it 7.5 demolished, ugly Black Canary statues.
Okay. Very nice.
So it says, yay, that ugly statue's gone. I'm very happy about that. All right. Good. So that's about it for our shows this week. Jesse, I want to thank you so much for helping us out. We really appreciate it.
It is always a joy talking to you, Charles, and we do send out our best wishes to the podcast mom. I miss talking to Karen. We need to figure out when we can all do on this, because now that Castle's over, she and I never get a chance to talk.
Well, I'm going to definitely mention about episode 100. Maybe you can join us for episode 100. How's that?
That sounds perfect.
All right, so let's do that. So, Jesse, since you were kind enough to join us, I got to let you plug away. So plug and let us know where people can find you.
Thank you. I can be found on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can hear me on Next Stop Everywhere with Charles Skaggs, where we are currently going through
Who's that?
the Key of Time season for Doctor Who.
Right.
I have a very, I think, great episode of Set Lusting Bruce that's coming out. But when this gets released, I talked to a UK film director, and he's doing a web series which is showing all the worst part of Bruce Springsteen fandoms. This couple that are just absolutely horrible.
The ugly dark side of Bruce Springsteen fandoms.
Yes, and so it is very funny and absolutely wonderful. So and Charles, how about yourself?
Obviously. People can reach me on Twitter at Charles Skaggs or on the Instagram at Charles Skaggs. And then Facebook, of course, Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen. And my blog of geeky things, Damn Good Coffee and Hot. Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk about all these comic book shows and more. Talk about Twin Peaks and all kinds of stuff. Anything my little geeky heart desires. So if you want to hear more about the Fandom Zone or my other two podcasts, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that I do with you, Jesse, or my new Twin Peaks podcast, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, the wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we discuss Twin Peaks. Please check us out there. And there's all kinds of links on Damn Good Coffee where you can do so. And then as for the Fandom Zone itself, you can reach us on the Twitter machine at Fandom Zone Cast. And we would definitely appreciate that. Or on Facebook, the Fandom Zone Podcast. And you can, if you would, please give us a little rating on iTunes. We haven't had one of those for a while, so please give us a rating there. We definitely appreciate that. And I believe you can write to us at phantomzonecast@gmail.com. But the easiest way is to just drop us a line on Fandom Zone Cast on Twitter or on Facebook, and let us know what you think. Sadly, we do not have any Justina feedback. I wrote Karen to see if there was any. So, Justina, if you're listening, we did not forget you. At least I did not forget you, but your feedback did not reach me to be included. So, apologies for that. Hopefully, Karen will be back next week, and hopefully we can make up for that.
Very good. All right, so you're one step closer to your 100th.
Yep.
Right?
We're one step closer. 10 more episodes for the big 100. We're getting close. We've gotten a few more likes on Facebook. We're now up to, I think, 114, 115. But
nice.
obviously, we could use more likes on Facebook, so that would be appreciated. Jesse, once again, I want to thank you for helping us out. You're always a champ, and it was great to talk to you about something besides Doctor Who for once.
Absolutely.
So,
well, thank you, Charles.
Not that I don't enjoy talking Doctor Who with you, but it's nice to talk comics, and it's something a little different.
Absolutely. So, very good. Well, thank you, Charles, and thank you, listeners. You're going to get us out?
Yeah, just thank everybody for listening to the Fandom Zone podcast, and we'll see you again next time, hopefully with Karen, and for episode 91 of the Fandom Zone podcast. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.